and the mermaids. At last it was the summer holidays and the fairies were enjoying a day at Fairy Special Beach where the sun always shines and the sea is just the right temperature for swimming in. As soon as they arrived, the fairies scattered along the beach, splashing, playing, and swimming. After Joe and Pip went swimming in the sea, they decided to build a sandcastle. Wouldn't it be great if we see some mermaids here? Joe said as they made their way back to the Fairy Queen. 바다다. We'll have to keep an eye out, Pip replied. Summer, 여름. They told the Fairy Queen that they were going further down the beach where there were fewer fairies and more sand, and that they were... 맞아. 여기 물 밖에 모래가 있겠지. And more sand, and that they were on the lookout for mermaids. I'm not certain you will see any mermaids, the Fairy Queen said. But see if you can find me a pretty shell instead. 여기 모래 있네, 제가. Joe and Pip found the perfect spot and started digging. 맞아. 우리 한 거다. 이거 했잖아, 재빈이가.
맞아.
The sandcastle got bigger and bigger. They were so busy that they didn't.
이런 거
하고 싶어? 그래, 다음에 해보자. They didn't see the large crab looking at their spade. Suddenly, the crab grabbed the spade in one of his claws and raced towards the water's edge. Joe and Pip ran after him as fast as they could. They lost sight of the crab as they reached the water's edge. Let's look over the other side of this rock and see if he is there, suggested Joe. They very carefully flew and climbed up the steep slope. When they got to the top, they couldn't believe their eyes. Right there in front of them was a real, alive mermaid. But then they heard the sound of crying, so they climbed down the rocks to ask what was wrong. My sister is stuck under some coral and I can't get her out, sobbed the mermaid. The sea cucumber is staying with her while I try to find help. Joe and Pip knew right away that they had to help. They used their magic to make bubbles over their heads so they could breathe underwater and use their wands to ride their way. Under the water, it was beautiful. Joe and Pip were enchanted by all the colorful sea creatures, but there was no time to linger. They had to get to the mermaid's sister. When they reached the trapped mermaid, they tried together with all their might to pull her out. But it was no good, she was stuck fast. Just when Joe was coming up with another idea, something very large floated over them. Quick, hide, said Pip. It looks like a... It was a long time after the shark had passed before anyone moved or made a sound. I think it is safe now, said Joe. Why don't we try some magic? The mermaid seemed to move a little and Joe and Pip concentrated very hard. But just as they thought she was starting to come free, the shark returned. Quickly, one more go, shouted Joe, and they concentrated with all their might on the wands, and the mermaid struggled free. Joe and Pip turned to face the shark. Now wave your magic wand, Pip said. 기차야. I think if we can cast the right spell, all the shark's teeth will fall out.
누구 말이야, 누구?
무궁화? 오, 좋은데.
무궁화 기차야.
아, 무궁화호 기차? 어떻게 알았어, 제기 무궁화호 기차? 무궁화 기차 어떻게 알았어, 제기?
무궁화 기차.
아빠가 말해줬어?
무궁화 기차는 천천히.
천천히 가는 거 어떻게 알았어, 제이가?
이거 봐.
누가 알려줬어?
지안이 친구.
아, 지한 씨가 무궁화 기차는 천천히 간다고 알려줬어? 그랬구나. Both fairies waved their wands for all they were worth and watched as the shark teeth came loose and drifted to the ocean floor. The surprised shark swam away as fast as he could. Phew, said Joe. That was close. The mermaids were so happy to be safe that they gave Joe and Pip as many hugs as they could, and the rescued mermaid gave the fairies her necklace of shells to share. By now, Joe and Pip knew they needed to get back to the other fairies, so they said goodbye to the other cucumber, held on tightly to the mermaid's tail and swung. 무궁화 기차구나. 진짜 똑똑하다.
무궁화 방울 기차.
맞아. Moments later, they were back to the beach. They popped their bubbles and waved goodbye to the mermaids. Look, Pip! Exclaimed Zoe. There's our spade! The sea seemed to be returning to them with the waves. Back at the beach, Joe and Pip presented the fairy queen with the shell necklace. How lovely! The fairy queen said. Now, isn't finding beautiful shells better than finding mermaids? Joe and Pip looked at each other and smiled. The end.